Macca's Guides.
Hey everyone, Macca here, and welcome to another Xbox dashboard UI update type video. I am on Xbox Insider in the alpha preview ring, which means that when Xbox tests new little features and stuff, I sometimes get a chance to test them through this program, and today is no different. There's been an update to My Games and Apps, and more specifically to the Full Library tab. I wanted to take you through some of the changes. I want to know your opinions in the comments down below, and at the end of the video, I'll share my personal opinions. So if you go to Full Library, you'll see a lot of changes right away off the bat. They are somewhat obvious, but there are also some that are a little less obvious. I'll take you through those as well. Now, we still have the menu on the left-hand side with Games, Apps, Groups, Full Library, Manage, and then you'll have your games updating and your storage information. But now, across the top, you'll have these kind of sub-menus, all games, owned games, etc., etc. You'll also have a search feature, which I'm not sure if is brand new, but it hasn't always been here. There is a option to still group by letter, sort by letter, group by console type, sort by your date acquired, and show your hidden games. And then there's also a filter. You can filter still by genre, by console type, by number of players, and whether your game is installed, ready to install, or only available through cloud gaming. You can then also go into here and look at kind of the subcategories. And as you look at the subcategories, some of the stuff like the filters near the top do disappear as you scroll down. So you kind of have an idea of how that works. But now we have these groups like all games, and basically under all games, you can see a list of every game that you are able to play based on whatever way you own those games. So for some of these games, you're gonna own them outright. But additionally, any games you own through subscriptions will show up here. So your Xbox Game Pass games will show up here, games with gold games will show up here, EA Play games will show up here, and maybe future services like Ubisoft Plus, if those ever launch into Xbox, those will show up here as well. So basically every game you can play shows up under Full Library, all games. But then if we tab over to owned games, you'll notice that I have about 300 less owned games than all games. These are basically games that I flat out own. I've either purchased or I've earned the license to these games, and none of my subscriptions matter. I can basically always play these games as long as I'm, logged into my account. The next tab over is Xbox Game Pass, and these are games that I'm able to access through having a subscription to the service. And it's cool here because we finally have a counter. It says 399 games. This is based on my region of Canada. You may have a different number if you are somewhere else in the world. You'll also have these kind of quick tabs where you can go to your play later, which is a section you can make to basically bookmark a game. You'll have your recently added, which is games that have obviously recently been added to Xbox Game Pass. We have leaving soon, which is a section I hope they continue updating and keeping an eye on. This is extremely useful to know that a game like Hades, which is very well regarded, or even What Remains of Edith Finch, one of my favorite games of all time, it's good to know that these games will be leaving the service as long as you check this screen and as long as this screen is updated. You can also click here, which will take you to the full Game Pass experience, and then underneath you can actually look through all of the games that you have access to through Xbox Game Pass. So this will give you an idea of games you might have in Game Pass that you don't actually own, and vice versa. It basically is just a further subcategory of all games. You also have your games with gold, which I'm not sure if they disappear if you stop paying for Xbox Live Gold, but apparently I have 63 games through that service. I can make a whole other video and talk for hours about games with gold and what I believe the future of this program should be. But games with gold is in a awkward position as obviously the time, marketing, and budget that Xbox has is mostly being put into Xbox Game Pass, which makes the games being added to games with gold usually not very good. Anyways, the next tab we have is EA Play, another subscription that I own. I own this through Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. You may have an EA Play subscription separately, but here you'll see something similar. You can sort the games, filter them, search them. You can go through recently added. In EA Play, you will have game trials instead of leaving soon. So for example, a brand new game like Madden 23 with EA Play, I think you can play about 10 hours of this game. So you can see what games you have access to. There are apparently 88 games in EA Play. And then you have your owned apps, which some of these I'm not even sure. I've never even seen some of these things, but I guess I own them nonetheless. So the next thing I want to ask is what your opinion on this is, and I'd like you to go to the comments and let me know. I'm genuinely extremely curious before I share my own personal opinion, because I think, although on paper some of these changes are really great, in execution this feels extremely overwhelming and extremely cluttered. Even me, as a quote-unquote hardcore user, someone who plays on Xbox literally all day sometimes, I am extremely familiar with the dashboard and with what games I own and how to use the dashboard. And just all of these options just seem like they are complete overkill. In a lot of ways, owned games, Xbox Game Pass, games with gold, all of these are subcategories of all games, but because they all have their own header, they all seem like they're part of the same level when they're not really a part of the same level. Now, I'm not saying the solution is more drop-down menus, but in a way, owned games is a subcategory of all games, and therefore it should feel like a drop-down menu or something different. It just feels like so much of the screen is being taken up, especially when you start installing a game like let's install 10-Second Ninja. Once that appears in the bottom left-hand corner by my storage, the entire screen is just filled with information. And personally, I think it's overwhelming. There's not enough blank space. For some reason, this also happens. You install a game and it just doesn't install for like a solid 2 minutes sometimes. You can also go to manage games now and look at your tile size. So you can now change your tile size through this screen, which I don't believe you could before. Figured I'd point that out really quick. But to me, this seems like so cluttered, and there's like so much information happening on screen at once that it's almost hard to figure out where you want to go or what you want to do. This is an area of the dashboard that's now been updated 3 or 4 times in the last 2 years, it feels like. And it seems like Xbox could benefit from updating different areas of the dashboard and the user experience, as opposed to just focusing so much time and effort here. I understand they want a kind of big emphasis on Game Pass. That totally makes sense. But at the same time, in my opinion, Xbox could benefit from putting more resources into things like a social experience, something like a community feed, or, you know, sharing things amongst friends. The game DVR, where it hasn't been possible to easily edit a clip in years, or even achievements. There's so many more areas of the dashboard that I think could use a little bit of love and attention, that it seems weird to have yet another update here, and yet another update that feels kind of superficial, but also just makes things, in my opinion, harder to use. I'd love to hear your opinions, though. Let me know in the comments down below. I'll see you with more videos pretty soon. Special thanks to everyone on Patreon for supporting the show. Peace.